Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the Dewalt Battery Holder tutorial. If you have not seen part 1, I'll link it in the description. It's my very last video on my channel. In the last video, we created this, and this is the outer shell of the holder. And if we go to our front view and turn our canvas on, you can see we have a nice fit here. So in this video, I think I'm going to make this a 3-part video. This video, we are going to discuss making the internals that fit around this part of the battery. And there's some problems that arise with this, at least how I did it. Now, there may be, of course, multiple ways to do this, but and I want to go through those, so if you're doing something like this and you run into these problems, you know how to fix them. So I will try to keep this short and sweet and kind of to the point, and hopefully we can get through this. A little bit of warning, if you are actually following along with this video as a tutorial, I would suggest watching it first, because I am going to do a few things just to show you the problem with doing it that way, and then go back and fix it how we should do it, so, or at least how I fixed it. So I don't want you to be following along and pausing the video and doing it, and then just to realize that that's not how we're doing it. So okay, so let's turn this sketch back on, and let me collect my thoughts here. We are going to turn this body off. So like I said, we are going to do these internal parts. And so we know we have a piece. If we turn this on, we know we're going to have a piece that comes straight parallel, comes down at an angle, and then straight parallel again. And then of course we're going to have a cutout for this little latch. So we need something that follows this curve and goes straight back. And it needs to be about 2 millimeters long. And of course, I'm going to be kind of spewing out. I'm not giving you guys exact measurements only because I don't remember off the top of my head, but this is where taking your calipers and measuring things is going to come in handy, especially if you're doing this for a different type of battery, like a Milwaukee or Craftsman or whatever. So, okay, we're actually going to go into the surface tab. I'm already here. Usually if you're in Fusion, you're in the solid tab. We're going to jump over to the surface tab. And I don't know how well I'm going to be able to teach this. I'm not great at surfaces, but so I know how to do them, but I don't necessarily know how to explain them very well. So I'm going to kind of just show you what I do. And if I get something wrong, let me know in the comments, but hopefully you guys can follow along. So let's make a surface that can, actually, before I start, I'm creating surfaces so I can later use this boundary fill technique to create a solid body. And that'll come apparent as you watch this. So, okay, enough talking, let's get into it. So I've selected this edge, and what we're going to use is something called ruled. And what ruled does is it takes an edge, click on make sure both edges are selected here. It takes an edge, and you can change your direction and drag that edge out to create a surface. And now a surface is not like a solid body in that a surface really doesn't exist. It's kind of like a representation of a surface, right? There's no thickness to this. So like if I were to keep this like this and hit OK, and I were to go 3D print this, nothing would 3D print here because this has a 0 thickness. I hope that makes sense. So it doesn't actually become a physical part until you add a thickness to it. So what we want to do is take this surface and make it go straight this way. And whenever you open up a tool, there is always a window that pops up with a bunch of different things you can change. And if you're learning Fusion, I suggest you just get into these windows and start changing things just to see what they do. Now, the type here that we're going to use is direction, because we know we want this to come straight this way. So we change it to direction, and the direction we want is this. And now that did not work. So let me hit cancel. Let's do this over. I don't know why that did a weird direction there. So let's click this. Let's go direction, and the direction is this. So there. I don't know what that last one was, why it went kind of weird there, but so you can see now the arrow is locked in along this axis, or this edge. So now we can only drag in that direction. We're going to drag about 2 millimeters and hit OK. So there is our surface that goes straight this way. And I don't know if we'll be able to see this on, let's do a front. I think it's because of a surface. I don't know if we're going to be able to see this. Let me toggle my, yeah, you can't quite kind of see it, but since it's curved, you're not getting the picture. So here actually is the top of it, and you can see it doesn't match up too well, but that's okay, right? Because we're going to test print this to make sure everything fits, and I just found that 2 millimeters for me is what worked really well. Okay, so now we want this to go up at an angle, so up at an angle in this direction. And if we try that ruled again, it's going to kind of do something funky. Now we could do a ruled here, so let's go to create ruled. Let's unhook chain selection, and let's just grab this one and this one. And let's not do direction, let's just do normal. Oh, let's not do normal, let's just do, yeah. Sorry, we can do normal. And we can drag this up, but now it keeps a curved surface. And what we really want, especially if you're looking at your battery, by the way, if you're creating this for a specific battery you have, you absolutely should have that battery in front of you so you can be looking at the physical battery and seeing what needs to be designed. Now, we don't want to do this because it leaves us with a curved surface here. And the top, and on top of that, it actually kind of brings it in like this. Now, we could fix this part, but we really don't want this curved surface. So we're going to have to do something different. So I'm going to hit cancel. So what we're actually going to do is create a 3D sketch and draw a line that connects this point to this point, if I can, to this point, that we can then patch in to make a surface and then do a ruled on that. So let's go ahead and draw a sketch, and you can pick any, when you're going to do a 3D sketch, you can pick any surface you want for your sketch because we're actually not going to draw on that surface. So we're going to do checkmark 3D sketch here, and we're going to hit L for line. And 3D sketch gets a little confusing. You have to like pick the plane you want to do and the angle and all that, but luckily we're just going to pick points. So I'm going to click on this line, or on that point, I mean, and then I'm going to click on that point and then hit escape to get out of the tool. And there I drew a perfectly straight line connecting these 2 points. I'm going to toggle off 3D sketch because we don't need that anymore. And then we're going to do one more thing. I don't know if this is needed, but I'm going to do this just in case it is. But inside this sketch, I'm also going to project this edge. So I'm going to go to project include 3D geometry, and I'm going to click on this and this, and then finish sketch. Now, if I hide that body and my surface body, we just created that plane, or that soon to be surface. Now there's a few ways we can go about turning this into a surface. You can loft it. So you could use the loft tool, and basically you're going to click this edge and this edge, and then you're going to add your second profile, and it basically connects them. And then there is our surface. And then hit OK, of course. The other way to do that is to use the patch tool, which basically just takes a group of edges and patches them into a surface. And there you go. So that one's pretty easy. And we're just going to do that method and hit OK. So we've got these 2 surfaces. And now we need, let's go back onto our canvas. I always get my... So now we've basically just created this and this, and now we want to create this flat surface. Now, I know from measuring that the distance between here and here is about 11 millimeters, somewhere in there. I can't remember, 11.2, I don't remember what it is, but it's about 11 millimeters from here to here. So when I create this surface, I need it to be 11 millimeters from this surface. Now, what you think you might be able to do, or I should say, I'm going to do it this way because this is one of those times where I want to show you that this will cause problems in the future. So we're going to I'm probably going to design here for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then we're going to backtrack to this spot here. And I hope this is beneficial to you. So don't follow along, just watch. So you might think you can just do a ruled, and you can. So we're going to do create ruled. You want to come over here and uncheck this chain selection. Chain selection just means Fusion is going to try to find a chain of edges that they think go together. If you uncheck that, you can just select one edge, no problem. So let's do direction again. So we've got that selected, and we're going to do this direction, and we can just bring this way. And I'm going to go beyond the solid body, and I'm going to hit OK. So like I alluded to before, I am no expert when it comes to boundary fill. I don't know all of the ins and outs of boundary fill, but I have used it a little bit. And what I want to do when you're working with surfaces or bodies is you want to extend these surfaces past the body. What we just did, let me see if I can do I'm going to do an inspect section analysis. What we just did is create this hollow space in here. If you can see that, right? We don't have a solid body here. And what this boundary fill will do is solidify this, make this hollow space a solid body. But it won't work if and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're someone who is intimate with this tool and knows it very well, but if I were to stop this surface right perfectly at this face of the solid body, it wouldn't work. I've always had to extend the surfaces past the solid body. So we're going to do that with these. So let's turn the analysis off. And we're going to go to extend, and we're going to first extend this first one. I'm just going to select all the edges I want to extend, and it's just basically going to extend it out. Hit OK. I'm going to do the same thing with this edge here. Let's see. I don't want to, not this one. I want to do, let me hit cancel. I want to extend the edges of this. I'm going to hide this top body. Here we go. I'm going to extend this one. And I don't want to extend it out this way because I want to go past this solid body. I think I need to do align edges. There we go. So now this one is extended. Hit OK. And then let's just hide these for a second. Bring this one. I'm going to hide this solid body. And let's extend all of these. Hit OK. So now we've got all of these extending past, and I think that should work. So let's create a solid body now. So what we can do is go to boundary fill, and it wants us to select the tools of the boundary. So basically it just wants us to select the boundary. So one of the boundaries is this solid body, and then this surface, and this surface. And I think I got them all there. And now it says select cells. So now it's telling me it found some cells. And let's see if this works. I think it will. I usually just select all of them. I think Fusion doesn't do a great job of telling you what cells. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm just going to select all of them. And I'm just going to hit OK. So now I can hide these surfaces, and it didn't work. So let's go back, delete all. Now, which one didn't I extend? I have a feeling it's this one right here, these two. So I'm just going to stitch these two together and we'll see if that makes a difference. So I'm going to stitch this one and this one. And stitch basically just takes two surfaces and stitches them into one. So I'm going to hit OK. So now this is one surface. And let's try that again. So I'm going to put this body back on. And let's do this again. So boundary fill, we've got the solid body, we've got this body and this body. And now it gave us an extra cell. So whatever happened there, it had to do with this seam right here. So I'm just going to select, oops, I selected the surface instead. So I'm going to select cell. I think that's the one we actually needed. But like I said, I'm just going to select all of them. And I'm just going to remove the tools. Oh, it's not going to let me remove tools. So I'm just going to hit OK. Oh, it did let me remove the tools. It wouldn't let me click. But now look what happened. We have a solid body. So if we turn that analysis back on, now look, it filled in that hollow space with a solid body. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And so now we've got our shape that we want. However, we still have to get this. So if I click here and click here, we're at 12.758, and I know that needs to be 11, so we're going to have to do some work here. Now let's just turn let's go to our front view. Let's turn on our canvas, and let's see if I can. So you can see this is a little off, so we know this is going to move this way because it needs to be 11 millimeters instead of 12. This is pretty good. This line right here is pretty spot on, and there's some room here. It looks like this could be brought down if needed, but we'll leave it for now. Now, this is where we're going to run into some problems, or at least I did when I did this the first time. And watch it not happen this time. I'll be really mad. So if I want to get this to move up, but also keep this angle going, I wouldn't hit extrude. I would do like a offset face. And first, let's see where we are. Let's see our distance here. So we are 12.758, and we want to be 11. So 12.758. So let's do offset 12.758 minus 11. Now you see we're getting an error here, and it won't let me extrude this. Now let me hit E for extrude. And look, when I hit E for extrude, I can't even select that surface. And this puzzled me for a long time. Like, what the heck is going on? And even more so, we can't create a sketch on this surface. See how it's selecting this bottom surface here? It will not let me select this top surface. And I really don't know why. Because we created this line right here with the line tool as a perfectly straight line, and then we used the rule tool and just extended that straight line. So this should be a flat surface, and I really don't know why it's not. And that will come back to haunt us in the future when we start doing some more complicated things in here. So if you're ever working with surfaces and you think you're creating a flat surface, that's a good way to check. Just grab the sketch tool like you're going to create a sketch and see if you can. So see, I can draw a surface on this, or a sketch on this, because that's flat. I can do it here. I can do it here, but I can't do it on this surface. It's picking the bottom here. And I actually can't do it on this surface either. This isn't flat, even though it should be, I think. Well, actually, this one won't be flat because this is not in the same plane as this, and we'll fix that later. But okay, so let's escape out of this sketch tool, and let's just go back. So we went all the way back. Where am I at here? We have not done. Okay, we didn't do any of the extends yet to go past the edges. We just did these two, and we didn't even do the ruled on. Have we done the rule? Oh yeah, we did do the rule on that. So I actually kind of want to erase that as well. So we're back to where we were when we just did these two surfaces. Now, what we want to do, or what I figured out to do, is we want to just create our own surface that we know for sure is flat and we know for sure is 11 millimeters down from here. So I'm going to do an offset plane. I'm going to start here and I'm going to type in -11. Then I'm going to do a sketch on that plane. And now we can just hit P for project. And I'm just going to project the bottom surface of this and hit OK. And now what we can do is turn that into a surface by just patching it. And we'll just select that and we'll hit OK. And now we have our flat surface that is exactly 11 millimeters. Now you're kind of probably thinking, what are we going to do with all this stuff? The same thing as we did before. We're going to extend all of this stuff. We're going to extend all of this stuff out to close in those edges. So first let's stitch this. We'll stitch this one and this one. We'll hit OK. And then let's extend all of these edges. Hit OK. We will extend all of the edges of this. Hit OK. And then we can turn our body back on. So now we have all of these surfaces going past the inner surface of the solid body. So now let's do that boundary fill again. So we're going to select our solid body, we're going to select this one, and we're going to select this one. And now it's giving us a bunch of check marks. There's probably a good way, or a bunch of boxes, probably a good way of knowing which one is which. Looks like they kind of turn a different color green, but I'm just going to select all of them in case there's any funky stuff going on and hit OK. So let's hide our surface bodies and look at that. Now we have the same thing, except this got extended up. We know this surface, look at the bottom right screen, is 11 millimeters. If I do my analysis here, this one got, let's select the cut plane. We had to redo that. Hit OK. It didn't join them, and maybe there was an option there, so it's pretty easy to join this. So it looks like these two bodies did not get joined together, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and just join those. So we're going to have that be the target body, this be the tool body, and we'll hit OK. Now they are just one solid body. And now look at this. Now if we do a sketch, we can now select that surface, which means it is perfectly flat. Again, if you're watching this and you know why that, the first way I did it, why that wasn't flat, please let me know. I feel like it should have been perfectly flat, but it wasn't. So I'm going to go on my timeline and clean up all that stuff we did earlier. We don't need that. Now, there's still this guy right here. Now, we can select it, but if we want to, let me finish sketch. If we want to draw a sketch on this, we still can't draw a sketch on this. And again, it's not that big a deal, but it does become a big deal later when we start adding chamfers and stuff. There's something screwy with this that Fusion will start screwing up the chamfers and it will give you errors. And I don't know why, because it's not that hard geometry, but if for some reason when this surface isn't flat, it won't accept those chamfers later on. So we're going to fix that as well. So there's a really cool trick to fix this, and I don't use it a lot in Fusion, but this is the perfect time. Now I'm going to toggle, we already know this isn't flat, right? Because we can't draw a sketch on it. And actually, if I click on this surface and then click on this surface, if they're two flat surfaces, they should show me the angle. And all this says is two faces. So we know this isn't flat. I think we've established that. But we can actually see this. So if I hit Control 9, or maybe it's Control 8, Control 8, we're going to do this back view. So it's an orthographic view. So it's like a 2D image. You can zoom all the way in, and you can see we have more than one line here. So there's almost like a twist in this face. So let's go back to the normal view. So Control 6. What we're going to do is a replace face. And when you hover over these tools, it kind of gives you a little description of what it does. And this will change the geometry slightly. And I'm going to kind of show you how little it actually does. So if I click here, hold Shift and click here. Oh, I'm sorry, let's go here and here. Remember, we made this about 2 millimeters. And because some of the curve stuff in this face, we're not quite at 2 millimeters. We're at 1.979. And so this will change slightly, and maybe this angle will change ever so slightly, but we're talking like 1/100 of a millimeter, so it shouldn't really matter that much. So we're going to create a construction plane along this surface, and then we're going to replace this face with the construction plane face. So when you come up here, you can choose what kind of plane you want. And we're going to do plane through 3 points. And now we can pick this point, and this point. And it creates a plane through those 3 points perfectly flat. So I'm going to hit OK. And we can actually drag this plane. If we go to one of the edges, we can click on that plane and just drag it down. I don't know if that's necessary, but now it covers that whole face. And from here, we can just go up to Modify, Replace Face. So this little window pops up, and at first it wants to know what face we're going to replace. So the source face is this, and the target face, meaning the face that we want it to now have, is going to be this plane. And then we can hit OK and hide this plane now. And let's just really quick, before we check for flatness, hold this 1.955. So I don't remember what the last measurement was, but it's basically the same. So now let's check for flatness. We can click on this surface, hold Shift, click on this surface, and now it gives us an angle of these two faces. I can click on Create Sketch, and it now allows me to select that surface. So we know this is perfectly flat now. If we do our Control 8 and get back to that orthographic view, we now have a single line. So everything is nice and cleaned up just the way we want it. Okay, so I'm probably going to end up making this a 3-part video. I'm already getting pretty long here, but let's do one more thing, and then we'll finish up the rest on the next video. So we've got this little catch here. So let me get back to my front view. So we've got this little catch, and again, this is where your caliper measurements will come in handy. If you measure from this spot to where this bracket is, giving some room, you'll know exactly where that needs to be. So we're just going to, I'm not going to give you the exact measurements, one, because I don't really remember, but they're going to be pretty close. You'll just have to measure your own if you've got a Dewalt battery. So let's create a sketch here. So I'm going to create sketch. Again, that's why this is so important, that this surface is flat, because we need to create a sketch on it. Let's make a line, and we're going to do, I want to say it's like, gosh, I'm going to totally make this up. Let's see what 9 does. I'm going to hit X on the keyboard to turn that into a construction line. And actually, I think it's 9 from the edge. I believe the square we're going to make is going to be 24 millimeters this way and 7 millimeters this way. So let's add 3.5, so half of 7. So let's do 12.5 here. Let's go up to create rectangle, center rectangle, and let's click on this point, and let's just type in our 7. We'll tab over and we'll hit 24 and hit enter. And let's finish sketch. And now we can select that profile, hit E for extrude, and just cut it away from this model. Now let's just see what this looks like with our canvas turned on. And I'm going to hit Control 8. And it looks like you can kind of see we didn't get this perfectly orthographic when we took this photo. So here's the edge of that little clip, whatever you call this, and then you can see that other face. So we're not perfectly straight on to this. So I think I'm just going to leave it at that. This is where, actually, let's keep going. I'm going to go a little bit further, and then we'll have a good stopping point. Okay, so we want this area right here between this edge and this edge to be a little lower. That way, that little catch on the battery has an easier time making it up this slope. So what we're going to do is we're going to just temporarily split this body so we can just work on the middle part. So we're going to go to Modify, Split Body. So we select the body, and the splitting tool is going to be this surface and this surface, and we'll hit OK. So now that splits it up into 3 parts, 4 parts actually. Let's hide this. Actually, we can just turn these back on. What we want to do is lower this section. You could either just do a press pull and just completely lower it, and then you could probably add a chamfer here, and that would work. That would actually be totally fine to do. This is kind of where you can get creative and design it however you want. Or you can do a draft. With a draft, this has to do with like making molds. Basically, the pull direction is how you're going to pull it out of the mold. So if we wanted to make this part in a mold, we're pulling it out of the mold this way. And we're going to create a draft so it's easier to pull out of the mold. That's basically what this means. So the face would be this. And now we can rotate this down, and you could pick whatever you want. So I wouldn't like having this little funky edge here, so I would probably just rotate this. Let's go like -22, -23 there. That gives me like a nice rounded edge, so I kind of like the look of that. So I would hit OK. And I guess what I should have done first is I should have lowered this, but what we could do is just create a round over. So let's maybe do like a 6. Well, that's way too much. 4, 3. Let's go 2.5. So now that little latch doesn't have this steep angle to go up. It's got a much more gradual angle and then a nice round over that it can kind of latch in place here. Now you could still do the same thing over here. You could, again, this is where you can make this however you want. You could round over these edges. This is just for aesthetics, and you can just pick one that you like. 9 looks pretty good, and hit OK. And once you're happy with that, I wouldn't go too crazy, because what you're going to want to do, and actually, you know what? Maybe we will just save. We won't do anything with this right now. I'm just going to delete that. What I would probably do from here is rejoin everything. So we'll just do target body here, and we'll select all of these bodies. Basically, we just turned it back into one body. And I would do like we did before. I would do a construction plane, offset plane. I would bring this all the way in. This is just like at the end of that last video. Split body with this, hit OK. And I would send this part to the printer. You're going to check, well, we already know that this curve here is perfect, right? Because we saved that and tested it the last time. But now we need to make sure the rest of the geometry is perfect. So we want to make sure this distance from here to here will fit over this little bump here. Let's turn this body off. Will fit over this little bump here. We want to make sure this distance to this little catch is right, so this smoothly locks into place. So there's a lot of things to check right now that you want to get right before moving on. So I think this is a good place to stop the video. I think, man, I might even be at like 30 minutes right now, but let's stop there. I'm going to assume if you're following along, you're going to print this out a few times if you're actually making one of these. But this would be a good time to save. It might be another good time to, remember we have this perfect front end here. So we have to fall back on this. Once you get this right, you could join these back up, make another copy, name it, perfect front end with latch or whatever, however you want to do it. But just so we have another thing to fall back on. So the next video, we will go over making the rails and just kind of doing some finishing up, some finishing touches like adding chamfer so we don't have all these sharp edges and stuff like that. So I hope you guys are enjoying this tutorial. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you have any advice or tips or anything like that I could be doing better or more efficiently, let us know so we can all learn. And I will see you in the next video.